For most of my life, let me just repeat this, I have hated fishing. And I truly believe that it's because no one ever taught me to fish. Nobody ever took me and showed me. Here's what this is about. Here's what this involves. Here's why I love this. Friends, after Jesus was baptized, after he went into the wilderness for 40 days, was tempted by Satan, he comes back into the region of Galilee, begins proclaiming the gospel. After all this happens, Jesus finds several young men and he issues them an invitation to teach them how to fish. I want you to take a look at this with me this morning. If you will turn to the Gospel of Mark. In the Gospel of Mark, the last couple of weeks we've been in chapter 1 looking at verses 14 and 15. Well, I want to start this morning in verse 16. It says, passing along the Sea of Galilee, Jesus saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men. And immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on a little farther, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, who were in their boat mending their nets. And immediately Jesus called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired servants, and they followed Jesus. So Jesus finds these young men and says, come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Jesus found fishermen and told them, I'm going to teach you how to fish. And they followed him. Why? Well, they had figured out by this point that this was a different kind of fishing. That Jesus was bringing a new kingdom along with new priorities. What Jesus is really saying is, I've come to seek and to save the lost. Come follow me and I will show you what that looks like. This morning, we're going to take a look at the fact that disciple making requires some very specific things of us. And in being able to identify these things, this helps us understand, okay, if I'm going to be a disciple of Christ, and therefore I'm going to be a disciple maker, here are some things that have got to be characteristic. Some things that are going to be found if someone looks at my life. First of all, disciple making requires an open invitation. I think that you are aware of the fact that most people will not barge or force their way into your life. Now, maybe you have that one little exception to the rule in your head right now, and you're like, oh, well, you don't know so-and-so. Yeah, I get it. There's like maybe 1 in 1,000 people that would physically come to your door or pick up the phone and call you and say, look, I really want to follow Jesus. Would you show me what that looks like? Those people are out there somewhere. But you're probably not going to run into them. Most people will not force their way into your life. We have to issue an invitation. Well, to even get to that point, disciple making also requires an available life. It requires that you and I live a life where we make ourselves available. Here at the Brook, we use this word that our life has to be interruptible as well. But let me show you here in the Gospel of Mark just a couple of instances, verses that honestly we could just cruise right past and not think a whole lot about. But look at Mark chapter 3, verse 7. It says that Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the sea. Turn over to chapter 6, verse 1. Jesus went away from there and came to his hometown, and his disciples followed him. They came with him. See, Jesus moved from place to place, went from situation to circumstance to situation. Everywhere that he went, all of these things that he did, he kept inviting the disciples in. He essentially said, my life is your life. I am making myself available to you. You'll find all these instances where Jesus teaches the crowd, and then it says, and the next thing you know, he was with the disciples and they were asking him, hey, Jesus, what did you mean by that? Jesus' life was open. He was with them. He was teaching them. He was calling them, constantly inviting them in. That's not going to happen if we don't make ourselves available. And friends, let me follow that by saying this. We have to be honest about ourselves. We have to have an honest example. But we also just have to be honest, period. Disciple makers must be lovers of the truth. We must love the truth because we know that it's the truth that sets people free. And I want to, before we wrap up, point this out, that when Jesus issues a call to the disciples, he also issues a commitment from himself. I don't know if you've seen this. But if you go back to the Gospel of Mark there in the beginning, Jesus says, he gives the call, come, follow me. But then that's followed with the commitment from him, and I will make you fishers of men. If you follow after me, I'm committing to you, I'm going to do this work in you. So our call is believe and obey. Jesus' commitment is, I'll do the transforming. I'll change you. And by the way, whoever it is that you go and you lead and you disciple and you invest in, if they change, that'll be me too. You don't have any control over that. Paul said, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. Every time Jesus issues a call, he issues a commitment as well. Friends, the call to follow Jesus isn't metaphorical. It's actual and it's tangible. And let me follow that up by saying this. It is supernatural because it requires faith. It requires faith to follow after Jesus. If you want to follow Jesus, following means fishing. Fishing for men. And just like I told you, I'm not really a big fan of fishing, and I about 99.9% believe it's because no one has ever taught me to fish. No one has ever shown me how to love and appreciate fishing. As a follower of Christ, as a believer in Jesus Christ, you may be saying, I want to do that, but I don't know what to do or how to do. Well, first of all, we've talked about it this morning. But you're not supposed to do this alone. We need someone to show us how to be a disciple maker. That's the purpose of the church. This is why we exist. That is the essence of Ephesians chapter 4. That we are to equip the saints to do the work of ministry, to bring the kingdom of God, to share the gospel. Following Jesus means showing someone else what it looks like to follow Jesus. You are not responsible for or even capable of determining their obedience, their growth, their response.